Good morning. I call on the Honourable Deputy Premier to grace us with prayers.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning. Let us pray. Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and praise are derived, we beseech thee so to direct and prosper the deliberations of Parliament now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundation for the glory of thy name and for the safety, honour and welfare of these islands. Bless our sovereign, King Charles III, William, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially we pray for the Governor of our islands, the Premier, the Speaker of the Parliament, the Leader of the Opposition, Ministers of the Cabinet, ex-officio members, members of the Parliament, the Chief Justice, and members of the Judiciary, that may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of our high office. All this we ask for thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace now and always. Amen.
Please be seated. Proceedings are now resumed.
Reading of Proclamation. Cayman Islands Proclamation number 3 of 2023 by Her Excellency Jane Owen, Governor of the Cayman Islands. Whereas Section 83(1) of the Constitution of the Cayman Islands provides that the sessions of the Parliament of the Cayman Islands shall be held at such places and begin at such times as the Governor may from time to time by proclamation appoint. Now therefore I, Jane Owen, Governor of the Cayman Islands, by virtue of the powers conferred upon me by Section 83(1) of the Constitution of the Cayman Islands, hereby proclaim that a session of the Parliament of the Cayman Islands shall begin and be held at the House of Parliament, Georgetown, Grand Cayman, at 10 a.m. on the 19th day of September 2023, and shall thereafter continue until such date and time as the Parliament may adjourn thereto. Given under my hand and the public seal of the Cayman Islands at Georgetown, in the island of Grand Cayman, this 11th day of September, in the year of our Lord, 2023, in the second year of the reign of His Majesty King Charles III. Administration of oaths or affirmations. Oaths of allegiance and due execution of office by Ms. Reshma Sharma, the Acting Attorney General, responsible for the Portfolio of Legal Affairs, to be the temporary ex officio member of the Parliament.
Ms. Sharma. Please stand.
I, Reshma Sharma, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, his heirs and successors, according to law. So help me God. I, Reshma Sharma, do swear that I will well and truly serve His Majesty King Charles III, his heirs and his successors, and the people of the Cayman Islands in the office of ex officio member of the Parliament. So help me God.
Ms. Sharma, we welcome you on behalf of this Honourable House as temporary ex officio member. You may now take your seat. Please be seated.
Reading by the Honourable Speaker of Messages and Announcements.
I have received 2 apologies. One from the Honourable Minister of Tourism and Ports. He has advised that due to official travel, he will be arriving late today. Additionally, I have received notice from the Honourable Minister for Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage. He has advised that he will be absent as he is off island on official business.
Presentation of petitions.
None.
Presentation of papers and of reports. Office of the Auditor General, Cayman Islands, Annual Report, 31 December 2022. Providing value to the people of the Cayman Islands, April 2023. To be laid on the table by the Chairman of the Standing Public Accounts Committee, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the annual report of the Office of the Auditor General for the year ended 31st of December 2022.
Does the Honourable Member wish to speak thereto?
Madam Speaker, very briefly, Madam Speaker, the included in the report that I've tabled are the audited financial statements. The Auditor General received an unqualified or unmodified opinion issued by their external auditors. Also included there is a very detailed description of the activities undertaken by the Office of the Auditor General. It makes for, I think, somewhat for interesting reading from members and the public, because it details quite extensively the activities, and the public probably not completely aware of the wide-ranging activities that the Auditor General's Office undertakes on behalf of the government. It's not just all audits of financial information, but they do a number of other things and issue special purpose type reports. So I commend the report to this Honourable House. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
(2022) Annual Report, Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, Cayman Islands, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Attorney General, ex officio member responsible for the portfolio of legal affairs.
The Honourable Acting Attorney General.
I rise, Madam Speaker, to lay on the table of this Honourable House the 2022 Annual Report for the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions for the year ending 31st December 2022.
Does the member wish to speak thereto?
Very briefly, Madam Speaker. The report provides a comprehensive overview of the work of the DPP's office during the reporting period. That work, Madam Speaker, extends not only to the prosecution of a range of matters before the courts of the islands, but includes international cooperation, mutual legal assistance, and the Office's ongoing work in relation to the international standards of the Financial Action Task Force, which is commonly known as the FATF, with respect to the investigation and prosecution of money laundering and other types of offences. And for completeness, Madam Speaker, I would add that the Office of the DPP's financial statements received an unqualified opinion from the Auditor General, and a copy of that opinion is set out just after the substantive report and before the financials. I would therefore commend the report to the Honourable House and it makes for very good reading about the important work that is done by the Office of the DPP. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Ministry of Border Control and Labour, Cayman Islands Government, 2022 Annual Report, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Border Control and Labour.
The Honourable Acting Minister of Border Control and Labour. Can I call on another member to table the report? The Honourable Premier.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can't see this morning, pressing the wrong button. Madam Speaker, as the Minister has been delayed in arriving, I will ask for your permission to lay on the table of this Honourable House the 2022 Annual Report for the Ministry of Border Control and Labour on his behalf.
So ordered. Would you like to speak there too, Premier?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Ministry of Finance and Economic Development, Cayman Islands Government, 2022 Annual Report, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Finance and Economic Development.
The Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to seek your permission to lay on the table of this Honourable House the 2022 Annual Report for the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development.
Does the member wish to speak there too?
Just very briefly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Office of the Auditor General issued an unqualified opinion on the financial statements of the Ministry for the year ended 31st December 2022. An unqualified opinion signifies the information contained in the financial statements are accurate and can be fairly relied upon. As shown on page 7 of the annual report, during the 12-month period ending 31st December 2022, the Ministry comprised of 163 staff members, of which 144, or 88%, were Caymanian. 68% of staff members, Madam Speaker, are female, and the majority of staff was 46 years and older. Madam Speaker, some of the Ministry's key events and achievements during the financial year included successfully completing and issuing the Cayman Islands 2021 Census of Population and Housing Report, processing 662 requests for the waiver of stamp and import duties at a value of $8.9 million, developing a more strategic and structured approach to government procurement, as well as reviewing and improving procurement processes. Fourthly, reviewing and enhancing the government-wide risk management framework. Fifthly, releasing the stamp issues of the late Mr. Wesley Howell and the Platinum Jubilee of Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Further, Madam Speaker, Ms. Melissa Martinez-Ebanks, the Deputy Postmaster General, Operations and Human Resources, became the first person in the Caribbean to be elected as Vice Chair on the International Express Mail Service Cooperative Board. In addition, the Cayman Islands Postal Services achieved the UPU S58 and S59 security certification at the silver level at the airport post office, thereby prioritizing the prevention of injuries to people due to carriage of dangerous goods in the mail, preventing the loss or theft of mail and the loss of revenue or assets, and preserving customer confidence. Cayman now joins the elite company of Barbados, Bermuda, Jamaica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines in earning the UPU S58 and S59 certification in the Caribbean region. In addition, Madam Speaker, 42,323 government-related payments were processed at a value of $1.4 billion. This generated $8.6 million in investment revenue from government's investment portfolio. Investing US $393 million of loan funds in US government treasury notes at a yield interest rate of 3.2% per annum was also carried out. And, Madam Speaker, the last item to summarize is the managing the health insurance benefit for 1,046 seafarers, veterans, and their dependents. On page 46 of the report, Madam Speaker, the statement of entity and executive financial transactions show that on behalf of the Cabinet, the Ministry collected $27.2 million in executive revenue, which was $3.1 million above budget. The Ministry also incurred $78.5 million in executive expenses, which were $2.1 million below the revised budget. Some of the reasons that contributed towards the overall underachievement of the executive financial transactions included: one, cruise ship departure tax was under budget by $2 million due to the postponement to March 22nd of the resumption of cruise ship arrivals to the islands. Secondly, Environmental Protection Fund fees were under budget by $0.9 million due to the postponement again of the resumption until March of 2022 of the cruise ship arrivals. Thirdly, the past service pension liability payment was over budget by $1 million due to the budget being underestimated. And fourth, the cost for general insurance was over budget by $1.84 million due to an increase in premium rates and additional insurance for new property. Madam Speaker, the statement of financial position shows that the Ministry ended the financial period with $22.4 million in total assets, and of this amount, $12.4 million, or 55%, is comprised of cash and cash equivalents, which includes cash on hand, cash in transit, and bank accounts, with a maturity of no more than 3 months from the date of acquisition. Total liabilities amounted to $2.8 million, the majority of which comprise $1.7 million in other payables and accruals. Net assets, which are total assets less total liabilities, amounted to $19.6 million. Madam Speaker, the statement of financial performance shows that the Ministry earned $16.6 million in operating revenue for the year. Almost all of this revenue was earned from the delivery of outputs to Cabinet. The Ministry incurred $16.6 million in operating expenses during the financial year, of which $12.9 million, or 78%, comprised of personnel costs. Personnel costs include salaries, health insurance, and pension costs. The Ministry ended the 2022 financial year in a break-even position. Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank the staff and management of the Ministry for their hard work during the 2022 financial year, and I look forward to the future successes in the years to come. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I commend the report to this Honourable House.
RCIPS Criminal Justice Unit Juvenile Adult Cautions Approved Report May 2023. To be laid on the table by the Honourable Attorney General, ex officio member responsible for the portfolio of legal affairs.
The Acting Honourable Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, I rise to lay on the table of this Honourable House the Juvenile Adult Cautions Approved Report for the period 20th October 2022 to 19th May 2023.
Does the Honourable Member wish to speak thereto?
Briefly, Madam Speaker. This report, Madam Speaker, sets out the number of cautions administered pursuant to Section 12 of the Cautions Adult Act 2017, which provides that the Commissioner of Police shall cause to be laid before Parliament a report specifying the number of persons who have been administered with a caution and the nature of the matters for which the cautions were administered. While cautions may be administered to persons under the age of 18, pursuant to Section 28 of the Youth Justice Act 2021 revision, there is no similar reporting requirement under that Act. Nevertheless, Madam Speaker, the report now before Parliament sets out the cautions administered to both adults and young persons over the stated period. The report, Madam Speaker, is very short. It's self-explanatory. But if I may just briefly summarize, with respect to young persons over the reporting period, 7 cautions were administered for the following offences: possession, consumption of ganja, threats to kill, and causing alarm and distress. With respect to adults, 6 cautions were administered over the period for offences including possession and consumption of ganja and cocaine, assault occasioning actual bodily harm, common assault, and theft. Cautions may be administered, Madam Speaker, where a criminal suspect has unequivocally admitted that he or she is guilty of the offence and agrees to be cautioned for it. And in such circumstances, Madam Speaker, the suspect is not charged or prosecuted in court. And as we know, Madam Speaker, the out-of-court disposal scheme avoids the charging and prosecution of offenders for minor or one-off offences and the resulting criminal records, which may damage future prospects, employment opportunities, and the ability to travel abroad, among other things. And it also allows law enforcement to focus on more serious crimes and reducing the volume of cases before the courts. With those brief remarks, I commend this report to the Honourable House. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
RCIPS Criminal Justice Unit Juvenile Adult Cautions Approved Report, July 2023, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Attorney General, ex officio member, responsible for the portfolio of legal affairs.
The Acting Honourable Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, I rise to lay on the table of this Honourable House the Juvenile Adult Cautions Report, July 2023, for the period 19 May to 27th July 2023.
Does the Honourable Member wish to speak thereto?
Very, very briefly, Madam Speaker. As with the previous report, this one details a number of cautions administered to adults and young persons over the period 19th May to 27th July 2023. Again, it's a very short report, and we see that there were 3 cautions administered during the reporting period. In relation to young persons, these related to the offences of causing alarm or distress, possession and consumption of ganja. And with respect to adults, there was 1 caution, and that was in respect of common assault. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
2022 Annual Report, Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage, Cayman Islands Government. To be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage.
The Acting Minister of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage.
Morning, Madam Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the 2022 Annual Report of the Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage.
Does the Honourable Member wish to speak thereto?
Very briefly, Madam Speaker. The Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage is responsible for providing strategic and policy direction, advice, funding, and governance support to its departments, units, and statutory authorities. The following departments, units, and statutory authorities are under the ministry: the Youth Services Unit, the Department of Sports, the National Gallery of the Cayman Islands, the Cayman National Cultural Foundation, and the Cayman Islands National Museum. Madam Speaker, the ministry has three priorities that are the foundation of its work and the driving force that underpins its initiatives. These are talent, identification, and development; 2, enhancing and empowering our youth; and 3, awareness and preservation of culture and heritage. I'm pleased to report that the Auditor General has given an unqualified opinion for this reporting period, and on behalf of Minister Bernie Bush, I wish to express deep appreciation to not only the Minister himself, the Chief Officer, the deputies, the heads of departments, the entire team at the ministry for their tireless and unwavering commitment to this important work of a wide range of subject areas. I invite all members of the public to review the report in detail. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The National Gallery of the Cayman Islands Annual Report and Accounts, 31 December 2022, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage.
The Honourable Acting Minister for Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the National Gallery of the Cayman Islands Annual Report and Accounts for 31 December 2022.
Would the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
Yes, Madam Speaker. The National Gallery is a statutory authority under the purview of the ministry. The National Gallery is dedicated to preserving and promoting Caymanian cultural heritage through preservation, collection, exhibition, and fostering of an understanding of Caymanian art. Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to report that the Auditor General has issued an unqualified opinion for this reporting period. And on behalf of Minister Bernie Bush, I wish to express deep appreciation to the National Gallery for their rock-solid commitment to this crucial work, and invite all members of the public to review the report in detail.
Cayman National Cultural Foundation Annual Report and Accounts, 31 December 2022. Creativity, Heritage, Education. To be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage.
The Acting Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the Cayman National Cultural Foundation Annual Report and Accounts, 31 December 2022.
Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
Yes, Madam Speaker. The National Cultural Foundation is a statutory authority operating under the purview of the ministry, and its work fosters Caymanian cultural and artistic expression through performing, visual, and literal arts, and manages the Hartwell Theatre, Cayman's national theatre. Madam Speaker, it delights me to report that the Auditor General has issued an unqualified opinion for this reporting period. And on behalf of Minister Bush, I would like to express deepest gratitude to the Cayman National Cultural Foundation for their unwavering dedication to fostering various artistic disciplines and for their invaluable contributions to the development of our people. We are truly grateful for their efforts, and I encourage all members of the public to review the report in detail. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Cayman Islands National Museum 2022 Annual Report, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage.
The Acting Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage.
Thank you again, Madam Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the Cayman Islands National Museum 2022 Annual Report.
Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak there too?
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. The Cayman Islands National Museum is a statutory authority operating under the purview of the Ministry and is dedicated to preserving the cultural and natural heritage of the Cayman Islands, including historical, cultural, environmental, artistic, and scientific items both on land and sea for the present and future generations. I'm pleased to report, Madam Speaker, that the National Museum received an unqualified opinion from the Auditor General for its financial statements for this reporting period, and on behalf of Minister Bernie Bush, I'd like to express heartfelt appreciation to the Cayman Islands National Museum for their dedication to nurturing various artistic disciplines, promoting Caymanian cultural heritage and natural history, and educating people of all ages, including Caymanians, residents, visitors, about our islands. I welcome everyone to read the report in detail. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions to Honourable Ministers and members of the Cabinet. The elected member for Georgetown North to ask the Honourable Minister of District Administration and Lands. Question number 1.
The elected member for Georgetown North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to ask a question in my name to the Honourable Minister of District Administration and Lands. Question number 1. Can the Honourable Minister provide an update on the status of the situation with the beach vendors on our 7 Mile public beach?
The Honourable Deputy Premier and Minister responsible for District Administration and Land.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thanks to the Honourable Member. The answer. Madam Speaker, the Cabinet approved the 7 Mile Beach vendor policy in June of this year. Since that time, the Public Lands Commission has made a call for vendor applications. The Commission received applications and has been corresponding with the said applicants for additional information in order to complete the processing of the applications. I am reliably informed, Madam Speaker, that it is anticipated that the Public Lands Commission anticipates completion of the grant of vendor permits for the 7 Mile Beach by the end of October 2023. Thank you.
The elected member for Georgetown North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Minister for her response. If I could just ask, Honourable Minister, I know that we were speaking, or the main topic has been the 7 Mile public beach as we know it. Will this policy and the application process be applicable to all government-owned beaches, public lands?
Madam, your attention to standing orders.
Thank you. Member for West Bay West, it's just come to my attention that it's past 11 already. Can I call on a member to move standing order to suspend standing order 23.7 and 8?
Madam Speaker, thank you. I beg to move the suspension of standing orders 23.7 and 8 in order to allow questions to be responded after the hour of 11.
The question is that standing order 23.7 and 8 be suspended to allow question time to continue beyond 11 a.m. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Standing order 23.7 and 8 are accordingly suspended. The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The answer to the member is supplementary. The policy of February 2021 regarding beach vending remains in place for all beaches other than the 7 Mile Beach Park. The policy allows for commercial vending at the Cowood Public Beach. No commercial vending at the following public beaches: Smith, Barcadere, Spots Public Beach, Government House Beach, Consuelos Beach, Caybo Public Beach, Cayman Kai Public Beach, I beg your pardon, Starfish Point Public Beach, and Governor Russell Public Beach.
The elected member for Georgetown North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Minister for the answer. I appreciate that. I noticed, maybe because I don't think it has a name, but the Northwest Point Public Beach, the West Bay Public Beach by the Northwest Point boat ramp.
Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Northwest Public Beach had temporary permission. That has now expired, so the policy extends to them as well.
The elected member for Georgetown North to ask the Honourable Minister of District Administration and Lands. Question number 2.
The elected member for Georgetown North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to ask question number 2 in my name to the Honourable Minister of District Administration and Lands. And the question reads, can the Honourable Minister provide an update on the beach renourishment project that was announced in December 2021, along with a budget allocation of $21 million, and that was expected to start within the first half of this year?
The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thanks to the Honourable Member. The answer. Madam Speaker, the responsibility for the 7 Mile Beach Renourishment Project was transferred to the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. However, the accompanying budget has not yet been transferred along with this project. Since the transfer of the project to the Ministry of District Administration and Lands has facilitated the technical working group's completion of its initial work, and the initial strategic outline case has now been prepared. Due to the estimated size of the project, the necessary business case work, that is the 3-stage business cases, is in progress, and provided funding is approved in the 2024-2025 budget, the project will progress accordingly.
The elected member for Georgetown North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the Honourable Minister for that response. I don't think I need to delve into the response anymore. That was pretty clear. I do want to ask a couple more supplementaries, if you'll allow me, Madam Speaker. Can the Minister tell me if the technical working group is the same group referred to as the Beach Erosion Committee?
Madam Speaker, I'm reliably informed that it is not the same group. It's a new group that has been set up to deal with the strategic business case since it came to our ministry.
The elected member for Georgetown North.
Can the Honourable Minister say whether or not, if she's able to say, whether or not this Beach Erosion Committee still exists?
Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the best I can say is that I would give an undertaking to find out whether they exist and where they so reside.
Elected member for Georgetown North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the Minister for that, and that would be appreciated. My other question would have been whether or not this Beach Erosion Committee had met with or consulted with any of the properties from the Marriott Beach Resort north to Coral Beach. That includes the Sovereign, I think. But because, Madam Speaker, to the Minister, I guess I don't know if you can answer this, but there are properties that are facing, potentially, if we do have another storm, and we pray that we don't this summer, that are facing major structural damage because they had lost their seawalls in previous storms and are now being told in writing on their planning applications to replace their seawall, which was built from 1985, have now been told that they are waiting on the Coastal Works policy from this Beach Erosion Committee in order to address these situations. And we are, Madam Speaker, I visited the sites as late as yesterday, and I am afraid that without any assistance, without any direction, without any policy, if we have a storm pass within a couple hundred miles of us, some of these properties will end up in the water.
Honorable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'll have to give an undertaking to get this information. As the substantive answer indicated, it was not originally with our ministry. It's been transferred responsibility. There's still some other transmissions, including knowledge, to occur.
The elected member for Red Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Minister for Tourism, who is absent today, has said on public radio that he will not support the spending of $21 million as part of a beach renourishment project. Given that the government announced the policy in relation to beach renourishment, and indeed Finance Committee appropriated a budget of $21 million. Therefore, I wonder if the Minister, Deputy Premier, who is in a most unfortunate position at this stage in relation to this matter, if she can explain or indicate if government's policy in relation to this has changed.
Honorable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The one thing I most appreciate about the honourable member from Red Bay is that he knows how to ask his questions. The answer, Madam Speaker, so as to anticipate his supplementary, I'll answer in the following way. The Constitution makes provision that if a Minister of Cabinet seeks to deviate from the government's policy, there is an option available. I have no briefing from the Honourable Minister, and I would suggest that perhaps if the answer is not satisfactory, that a substantive answer be put forward when the Minister is here. But being a lawyer himself, he would understand what I just said.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and my thanks to the Honourable Deputy Premier. I, along with my colleagues, wait with bated breath to hear the next episode.
The elected member for Red Bay to ask the Honourable Minister of Education. Question number 3.
The elected member for Red Bay.
Madam Speaker, I am to ask the Honourable Minister of Education and Deputy Premier question number 3 on the order paper standing in my name. The question reads, can the Honourable Minister provide an update on the progress of having private schools utilize school buses for their students to travel to and from school?
Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The answer. The Ministry reviewed the matter of providing buses for private school students as promised. A caucus and cabinet note was subsequently prepared and duly submitted. As Minister of Education, I presented a said note to cabinet on the 30th of May 2023. As the honourable member would appreciate, this is a multifaceted project which inevitably requires some decisions outside of my ministry.
The elected member for Red Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Again, Madam Speaker, I appreciate that the Minister of Education may be encountering some difficulties in relation to this issue. But, Madam Speaker, this Honourable House approved a motion which I moved earlier in the year, asking government to consider not only stipulating that private schools go to a busing system, but also that government assist in financial terms where that was required. I believe, if my memory does not fail me, that the House approved that motion unanimously. And it did so, Madam Speaker, I believe, because to all of us who live here, it is obvious that when the private schools are on vacation, the traffic situation improves significantly. And so I'll ask the Minister and Deputy Premier, understanding her position, which is but one member of the Cabinet, whether the government has approved or will approve the project, if I may call it that, of stipulating that private schools bus their students and that government assist in whatever way it can to ensure that this occurs.
Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the issues remain from a logistical standpoint, from a financial standpoint, from a willingness of the private sector to cooperate. We still have the audacity for optimism within the ministry and indeed the wider government that the motion will be given all of our energies and synergies to try to come to a positive conclusion. I cannot give a guarantee to that effect because to date the success rate has not been 100%, but I live in hope.
Elected member for Red Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the Minister being very careful with her words. But the question I asked is whether or not the Cabinet has approved or will approve such a policy. There are many things people in the private sector don't agree with, but this House and the Cabinet has the authority to ensure that matters which affect, particular matters which affect the quality of life of all who live here, that the steps necessary to ensure that are taken by legislation, if not but simply by policy.
Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As indicated to the Honourable Member, a note was prepared to Cabinet set note all of the different issues and challenges and decisions that needed to be made. For example, unlike the government schools where there are catchment areas in the private sector, there's no such thing, so there were logistical issues with that. If the member wishes, I can share offline in summary the note that was put to the cabinet. I say offline unless he wants it right, and I don't have the permission at this stage, although I have the cabinet paper note with me to share it. Having been in cabinet before, it requires a consent to share it, and I would not want to be in breach, but I'm happy to, subject to that consent, to go through with the honourable member and his colleagues the findings that the ministry made. It went to cabinet, and they pretty much extract came back and said duly noted, but there were discussion that was ensued, agreeing that there were some severe restrictions in seeing the policy being become reality.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. One final supplementary, with your permission. Madam Speaker, the Minister has referred to a cabinet note. I take it, therefore, which is merely advisory, I take it, therefore, that there's been no cabinet paper proposing this introduction of this policy, and therefore no decision yet by the cabinet to implement such a policy.
The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the very detailed and thought-out note that was prepared by the technical staff within the ministry was presented in the exact same detail, and it was decided based on that it was not necessary at this time, and we were seeking for a steer, and the steer was that it was noted, the concerns within the paper, and because the concerns were serious enough, it was not necessary. I certainly was not given a green light to prepare a paper. Subject to such policy being accepted, subject to the funding, subject to the child safety concerns, subject to the private sector and the government sector, and the actual persons who had the bus transportation. One of the concerns that members may wish to add was that they had no guarantee, unless government bought the buses themselves, because it had to go to bid, that they would go and invest this quantum of money into new buses, which it would require new buses, and it would be for 2 or 3 year contract with no guarantee that those contracts would be renewed. So there are a number of considerations to be done. It's still a work in progress, but until I'm given the funding, direction, support from all members, that is the best that I can do, Madam Speaker.
The elected member for Bodden Town West to ask the Honourable Attorney General. Question number 4.
The elected member for Bodden Town West.
Madam Speaker, with the issuance yesterday, 3 months and 9 days after the unanimous passage of the motion, with the draft changes to the national pension laws being gazetted, I withdraw the question at this time.
Statements by Honourable Ministers and members of the Cabinet.
None.
Personal explanations.
None.
Obituary and other ceremonial speeches.
Honourable members, I We haven't received any statements, and I know that there are a number of persons within our community who have experienced significant loss since we last met. Right here in this honorable house, two of our very own members, the elected member for Georgetown North and the elected member for Savannah, both suffered a significant loss by losing their beloved mothers. The member for Savannah by losing her mom, Miss Mary Bawden, and member for Georgetown North, his mom, Mrs. Lorna Valmahue. And on behalf of this honorable house, I want to extend condolences to both members. In addition to that, our former minister, Tara Rivers, and her sister from Westway, Liana, have just lost their dad, Mr. Irvin Rivers, and I also want to offer my condolences. I will also give members in just a few minutes an opportunity to offer any condolences that they may wish to share. But before I do, I also want to offer condolences to the family of Miss Deborah Bawden. And when I think of her, I think that we have lost a young, hardworking, dedicated, lifelong civil servant, because I know that she spent her whole entire life as a civil servant. And many of us know her affectionately as Debbie. And I imagine, or I've been advised by both the Minister of Financial Services and the Deputy Governor that they also wish to extend their condolences. And I will make it brief because I would imagine we have other members that would like to speak. But I'd like to put on record the huge loss that Debbie's death brings. For me, on a personal note, she was a good friend, and she was with me from the very beginning of my legal journey, and we spent lots of time together with our young children. And so today I want to offer condolences to her parents and to her children, Matthew and Alexander, and again, just say how huge of a loss her death brings to our country. If any other member would wish to offer condolences at this time, please indicate. The Honorable Deputy Governor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I join you in offering condolences to all members who have lost their loved ones, but I do want to speak a little bit about Deborah Bawden. We were all saddened by her passing. Just a bit quick history of her tenure within the civil service. As you said, it was a long and distinguished one. She started in the civil service in September 2002 as a counselor at the Caribbean Haven. She then moved to the portfolio of Internal External Affairs, which is now the Deputy Governor's Office, on the 1st of September 2007, and she was an administrative officer too. Madam Speaker, in February 2010, when I was the chief officer in that portfolio, I had the pleasure of appointing her as the manager of the Commission Secretariat, which, as we all know, were set up to support the constitutional commissions that were set up under our new constitution that came into force in 2009. And that was the Constitutional Commission, the Human Rights Commission, Judicial Legal Service Commissions, and the Commissions for Standards in Public Life. She did such a great job in setting up those commissions that we decided to give her some more work. So she We added the Civil Service Appeals Commission and the Anti-Corruption Commission to her workload, and she expertly managed those 6 commissions. She did her job exceptionally well. She was dedicated. Managing those 6 commissions was a very difficult job. You are dealing with members of the judiciary, you're dealing with senior members of the private sector who are managing or leading these commissions. You're having to navigate the work of those commissions, interacting with the civil service, and she was able to do that job very well. She was known for her quick wit, for her dedication, for her integrity, for her dedication. She took great pride in doing her job at a very high level. She was a very private person. Many of us had no idea that she was sick. Matter of fact, I can say with high degree of confidence that she managed those commissions from overseas while she was getting treatment, and no one even realized that she was not in office because of her responsiveness and her ability to multitask. I don't think I've known anyone who could multitask as well as Deb. She was then later appointed in August 2021 to be a Cayman Islands government rep overseas. She was to be sent over to Brussels. Madam Speaker, as you correctly said, we have lost an outstanding civil servant who was dedicated to the service of our people, for services to the government. Governor Owen has asked me to also extend her condolences to the family. Governor Roper also asked me to do the same. He said that Lizzie and I are hugely saddened to learn of Debbie's tragic passing. I'd worked with her very closely, as did previous governors, on many important and sensitive issues. She carried out her duties in a highly diligent, conscientious, and tactful manner, and was a credit to the civil service. I was pleased to be able to award her a cert-on for her outstanding work establishing the commissions and her contributions to the good governance of our islands. In addition, Madam Speaker, to what the governor said in terms of her being awarded a cert-on, I nominated her for what she did in the commissions, but for also what she did during COVID. Obviously, the commissions were not in functioning during COVID for obvious reasons, and she quickly pivoted to working many, many long hours, time away from her dear son's work, managing isolation facilities, making sure that people were being properly cared for. Debbie was not someone that wanted to stand still. She wanted to serve. She wanted to make people's lives better, and she did that in a very special way. So, Madam Speaker, on behalf of all of us in the civil service, Her Excellency the Governor, Ms. Jean Owen, all members here, I want to offer sincere condolences to her family, especially her dear sons, Matthew and Alexander, who we all know she loved dearly. May her soul rest in peace. Thank you.
The elected member for West Bay West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as you have said, there have been several outstanding citizens we have lost since the House last met. I won't speak at length on many of them that I've been associated with in my long political career, but I don't want to mention Mr. Bernard Watler, who died suddenly, passed away suddenly, and his acumen, his sensibilities of things Caymanian, and his knowledge and his involvement, because at times he was on the platform with the United Democratic Party, which I led at one time. And his knowledge, his common sense, and I say his background of things Caymanian laid so much to solid advice, even as I knew him and his wife, his good wife, Miss Maisie, who passed away before him, was associated with them and been at their house discussing so many different things. And to say that we have lost a good Caymanian is just small words. And so I do offer my condolences, and I trust that what I have said and will say will be forwarded to family members. Also, Madam Speaker, a young man, I would have to say, was entering his 60s, or 60th birthday, I think, in the late Mr. William Connolly, from the East End, but well known to us here in Cayman, and particularly those of us that work with him. William was one of Cayman's greatest ambassadors in tourism. A great pity, Madam Speaker, that in his last years, he was not afforded an opportunity to work as he could have contributed much, but didn't get the chance in his latter years. He was sick for quite a long time. And I do recall in the tourism plan, although I had moved for a tourism school in my first term in the Executive Council, he was with me, and we went from district to district to promote the school, even offering $250 or $300 a month to students. And we went throughout this island to promote it. Only 10 people, students, took up the opportunity to attend the courses at the community college. And so that fell by the wayside after I left the Executive Council. And then in my last term in Cabinet, when I was Minister of Tourism, 2009, 2012, I took up the opportunity again to promote the establishment of a hospitality training institute of some kind. I gave William charge over it, put an executive secretary with him, and they produced the program. And I don't think, when I left it, I think it was all ready to roll. And the new incoming minister, the now minister for Cayman Brac, who was Minister of Tourism at the time, pushed ahead with it and established it. I don't know if they did all that William had envisioned, because William had grand plans. He was a grand planner. But things Caymanian and pushing for Caymanian workers, and from the day he entered, that I know about when he entered Hyatt and became a leading force in management there, and going off to the United States and leading there, he became a true ambassador for our islands. That kind of knowledge didn't push through till his passing, because when I say push through, he didn't get the work. And so I pay tribute to him. One of the things that he did also, his knowledge was vast in commerce as well. And he opened the Hong Kong office for us. And when I, as leader of the government and the Minister of Commerce at the time, pushed ahead with opening offices, one in New York, one in Dubai, and that one in Hong Kong. William actually was the man in charge of the one in Hong Kong. And for those things, we can put down in our history book that he did his part, a good Rotarian and in other aspects of community life. Of course, he was a good supporter of McKeever Bush, but nothing wrong with that. More of you should do that too. But, Madam Speaker, we give great thanks to him for his work, his knowledge that he gave, and the things he did for many, many Caymanian workers in the tourism industry. Madam Speaker, although I have personally extended my condolences to the Hugh family, Mr. Lenny, and the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, his son, I want to extend here and to place on Hansard record my condolences on their loss of Miss Valma, as she was known to me. Miss Valma was my constituent from 1984 and remained in West Bay West, where she lived all that time, my current constituency. She was a wonderful, wonderful lady and a devoted mother and wife. I knew and was associated with all the children and was Sunday school teacher and youth leader in the church at times where they attended, the leader, deputy leader of the opposition, and his sister, and Mr. Richard, who leads I think still leads CUC. All three of them was in my Sunday school class at times and in our youth group, although the deputy leader of the opposition skipped at times and made her believe that he was in Sunday school. But she was a wonderful, wonderful ambassador in many ways for our islands, again, in our tourism industry. My mother worked with her for many years, and I know, and I have complained as Minister of Labor and fought it as Minister of Tourism and still continue to fight that battle of gratuities for workers. And my mother always said, the one person, the many times that as long as she worked in the tourism industry, the one person they knew that they were getting their gratuities from was Valma Hugh. My mother, over the years, said that and remained respectful and a friend to Miss Valma. Miss Valma treated her workers, her Caymanian ladies, and many of them, of course, because of the tourism industry, many of them, if not all, was from the district of West Bay where she lived. Of course, she was not born in West Bay, did not live all her life in West Bay, but a greater part of her life was lived in that community. She enjoyed the sport of football. And the one thing that I appreciated, and I liked to go sit by her to watch the games, was when the deputy leader of the opposition was on one team and Richie was on the next. And one time she was pushing for Richie next time, and when he would lose, then she said, oh, and I said, come on, Joey, come on, Joey. It was just fun to sit with her, and humorous at times when you have children playing in opposition to each other. They were good times, and we shall miss her. I certainly, as I said, counted her continuously, even with the deputy leader on the opposite side when he got pulled into politics. But that didn't separate my friendship with much of the family, including Miss Valma and including Mr. Lenny, and I shall always respect them for what they did in the community, the people they helped the ideas that they came forward with, and they worked together as a team. Mr. Leonard was in insurance at times in the early days, and Ms. Valma, as I said, in the tourism industry, managing the condominium industry. A great and good ambassador. I have had also family members. The one you just mentioned was Tara's father, who is my cousin, and his mother was my grandaunt. And we shall have their his funeral on Saturday. My last mention is my own aunt, who passed away suddenly. She was a stalwart, a great defender of myself. So I don't have only but one aunt left, but she died suddenly. She walked into the hospital and was transferred to the next one and walked into that one and passed away. She had her likes and dislikes. I recall when I first was going to run, I told her I was going to run. Oh, she was overjoyed. But when I told her who I was going to run with, she told me I was an idiot. That was in 1980. But by 84, they was on my side and understood. And because I was her nephew, of course, she was a great defender and supporter. She had one child, and she knew parenthood. And of course now grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She was 82 years when she passed away suddenly. And so I want to record our loss as well and thank the House for your kind indulgence.
Before I call on the Honourable Minister for West Bay South, I also want to make mention that I failed to draw attention to the member for Georgetown South, who also lost her brother suddenly since we last met. I want to convey condolences to you as well. The Honourable Member for West Bay South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm glad you covered that because if you didn't, I was going to extend condolences to the member of Georgetown South, whose brother was a West Bay South constituent. So condolences, ma'am. And to all the other names that were mentioned, and all those who may not have been mentioned, there has been a lot of death in our island since the last time we met. I join again to give condolences to my predecessor for West Bay South, the loss of her father, and Brendan Watler, who I considered an in-law. But when you're married to someone from Savannah, in-law is a wide term, but he was no doubt an in-law. And I was saddened because so many times I've driven past his house, and every time I ever saw him, he always would say, now that you're in the business of politics, please do stop by any time for advice. And there were many times where something would be on my mind, but because you're rushing back and forth, I passed by the house, and once I was sitting at the service, I thought I could have stopped by one more time. Because in his case, it was a sudden passing. I think the family found it unexpected. But that again is why we have to say what we need to say when we can. I do rise in the capacity, though, as the Minister for Financial Services and Commerce, if we could just go back briefly to the passing of Debbie Bodden. It is stunning. Someone so vibrant, intelligent, articulate. It just was shocking news. I received the news early on a Sunday morning, and I had to ask twice because it didn't occur to me that someone of her age, even though I knew of some of the struggles, that it could potentially, possibly be her. So I asked twice. And Deputy Governor, if you remember, it was a Sunday morning that we were in church together, and I told you. And you had the exact same look on your face as I had when I read the WhatsApp, that we were just both speechless and stunned. She was everything that, Madam Speaker, you recalled earlier, everything that the Deputy Governor recalled. We'll always have fond memories. Madam Speaker, you'll remember when you were the Parliamentary Secretary for Financial Services, and we did our first trip to Brussels in 2021. Myself, you, Jean DaCosta, and Debbie Bodden. And if you remember, we were meeting an extremely high-ranking EU official that Cayman had never met yet. But Debbie was fearless. She did the research, she did the profile, she did the background, and that is even in the face of having a paid advisor in Brussels who knows the territory better than the rest of us. She still made sure to vet their work to be sure that we were prepared. I think she was probably the least nervous out of the four of us. Based on her over 20 years experience as a civil servant, she was ready. Even if it wasn't a field that she had great familiarity with, I think her process-driven mind didn't allow her to be nervous. She was determined, dedicated, detailed, and it's an eerie feeling. I don't know how many other ministers have experienced it, but it's an eerie feeling to work with someone so closely and then look across at their cubicle and they're gone. And again, in that case, many of us didn't get a chance to say what we could have said. But if she was here now, she should know that the Cayman Islands has lost an outstanding public servant who made sure I's were dotted, T's were crossed, advice was given, whether you liked the advice or not, it was given. And it was given in full, frank, and an intelligent manner. We extend our sympathies to her family, and may she rest in peace.
The Honourable Minister for Health and Wellness.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to express my sincere condolences and to put on record for the loss of a colleague and a civil servant, friend, even though I wasn't directly placed or worked with customs, Mr. William James Watson. For years of being in the immigration department in my earlier days, we exchange words in between flights, and there is a connection there because my grandmother, my late grandmother, was also a dialysis patient. So with that connection, I want to express sincere condolences to his family, his sister, definitely. To the late Miss Emmy June Piercy Brunson, who I'd like to extend sincere condolences to the grieving family. Having raised up around her in the Elgin Avenue area, right there in that little square with the Godfreys and the Nicholas. It's amazing how much of our good people we are also losing. Also, our veteran, the late Mr. William David Smalden, to the family, the Smalden family. He did so much. He's contributed so much also to the prison service, to which I have the honor of being the Minister of Home Affairs, and I'd like to publicly convey my sincere condolences to that family and thank them for their support, and thank him publicly for his support as a veteran and for what he has given during his time. Last but not least, I'd like to also put on record and express public condolences to the family of Pastor Wesley Nyack. This has been a huge loss to the Seventh-day Adventist community. And even though this man was small in stature, he was a giant when it came to spreading the word. And I wish to express my sincere and most deepest condolences to all of these families. Thank you for this opportunity.
The Honourable Minister for Labour. Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I too stand to to say that I knew Deborah well. Grew up in the same Bordentown district. Her family. We all went to the same Sunday school and Presbyterian church, now united in Bordentown. She was definitely professional, very intelligent, and served her country well. My condolences to her and her family, her sons especially. Also want to give condolences to Miss Julia from Water Authority. Her mom passed away yesterday, Miss Vita Frederick. And I want to give my condolences. Madam Speaker, please allow me to say a list of Caymanians that passed away, as you mentioned earlier. And so sad that we're losing so many Caymanians. It seems that we only meet at funerals now. And Miss Petra Kelly, Bordentown, Miss Andine Sanderson, Mr. William Connolly, Mr. Rudy Ebanks, Mr. Bernard Watler, who I knew well, also Mr. Frank Watler, very good friend, CBC officer Mr. William Watson and his dad, Mr. Max, and Mr. Lindbergh Webster, Ms. Althea Seymour, Mr. Louis Berry. Also, from the members in the House, Miss Barbara, Cyril Bodden, also Miss Heather, if I may say, call you by your first name, your mom, Miss Bodden, Miss Mary, sweet soul, yes, my grandmother's friend, and also to my good friend Joey, a member from Georgetown North, from his mom, Miss Valma, to all the family. Also, one of my constituents, Mr. Wesley Nyack, who passed away, his wife and their sons, my condolences to you. Also, Mr. Adrian West, pilot at Cayman Airways. I wish their families comfort. And again, my condolences. Thank you.
Honorable Premier.
Madam Speaker, thank you. Madam Speaker, we have rightly, I think, taken the time to recognize the loss of so many of our wonderful citizens. And I certainly want to join in putting on record my condolences to their families. Miss Mary, the mother of the representative for Savannah, was obviously a wonderful Caymanian lady who was very near and dear to me and so many others. She was the matriarch almost of much of our community. She was someone who nominated me for the last election, and I was certainly very proud of that. I was proud of having her support and guidance, and just knowing her as an incredibly wonderful person. Madam Speaker, I want to extend as well, as most have done, the profound condolences as well to the member for Georgetown North on the loss of his lovely mother. a lady with an incredible history, someone who you could put, I think, any Caymanian man beside her and look at their life history and see no difference in terms of achievement. But of course, she was also a mother to wonderful children who have achieved so much. And I certainly would join in extending condolences again, as I have done previously. Also to my friend, the member for Georgetown South, condolences on the passing of her brother, as other members have noted. We certainly join in their loss and grief. Madam Speaker, there has been mention by many members of the passing of Ms. Deborah Bodden. And as you have noted, Madam Speaker, she was a fantastic person. Others have noted what a dedicated public servant she was. Mother, as you noted. And I think you also noted, Madam Speaker, one of the interesting things about her having that incredible wit. But she also had a very sharp tongue, as many will know, as many found out in unfortunate circumstances. And I remember at times having a laugh when she would unleash it on others, until the day that she unleashed it on me. But it didn't change my views of her. It didn't change my respect for her, for all the reasons my colleagues have noted. She was an absolutely dedicated person, and as the Honourable Deputy Governor noted, throughout all of her illness, she performed at a very high level, and most people would never have known what she was dealing with. Madam Speaker, we also lost a young Caymanian pilot with Cayman Airways, as the Minister for Border Control noted, Mr. Josh West, or Adrian West. Completely unexpected. He seemed to be the picture of health. He was someone who was enjoying a career, his lifelong dream as a pilot. Madam Speaker, some of his friends told me about all the conversations they had with him, and how he was thinking that he was too old to get into the industry, change professions to become a pilot. They encouraged him, don't give up on your dream. And he did it. He did it. I have a picture of him, Madam Speaker, it must have been a selfie, I think, that he took, where he was leaning out of he'd opened up the first officer's window on the maxi, and he was leaning out and took that picture. That always stands in my memory as one which greatly represents what a young man can dream and achieve, and just what a wonderful person he was. So we all miss him greatly. Madam Speaker, he was a constituent, and I will certainly greatly miss him. I will miss driving by the house and seeing the chair that he would sit in with his wife empty now. So I extend condolences to all. Another constituent, Madam Speaker, that was lost under tragic circumstances was Ms. Rachel Forbes. She is the mother, was the mother of a member of the Cabinet Office, and she's the aunt of 2 other senior civil servants. So again, I would extend condolences to all of those. Madam Speaker, William Watson was a classmate of myself and the Honourable Deputy Governor. He, too, was a very dedicated civil servant. Someone who was an absolute, gentle, wonderful person who enjoyed all the things that, I mean, I think he continued throughout his life enjoying the things that most boys talk about and do. But he was just a wonderful person. He had challenges, I think, probably not long after he began his working career. And he found, well, he was fortunate enough to find ways to overcome some of them from a health perspective, but others, obviously, he was not able to. So he was another young Caymanian that we have, a relatively young Caymanian that we have lost from our communities, from the civil service, a person dedicated to serving the people of the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, Mr. Bernard Watlow, as has been mentioned, is someone I'd certainly want to extend condolences as well to all his family and friends. As the Minister for Financial Services and Commerce and Investment, Innovation and Social Development noted, he was an in-law for him, but he felt that way for so many other people as well. He felt he was a friend to so many. He was a repository of Caymanian history, and when you heard him speak, you understood that he was the same for Caymanian culture and Caymanian identity. So we certainly extend condolences to his family. Mr. Lindbergh Webster, Madam Speaker, I was very close to all of my life. I don't remember a day in my life that I didn't know Mr. Webster. He felt he was both a father and a brother and a very good friend to me, to my brothers, and some of my cousins. So he was a big loss as well. Pastor Nayak was another incredible loss within our community, within the Seventh-day Adventist Church community. Just an incredible gentleman. And as Minister for Health and Wellness noted, despite his short short height, he cast a very long shadow. Yeah. So many others, Madam Speaker, that we could mention. But one that Madam Speaker, you know, there are obviously situations in life where we lose many who are at an older stage in life, and it is painful, it hurts, And sometimes it's completely unexpected. But it's even worse, Madam Speaker, when you lose those who are younger. And I want to pay tribute, particularly, Madam Speaker, to a young Caymanian, an incredible young woman who I had the very distinct honor and privilege to work with, and that is Dr. Celine Manu Singh. Madam Speaker, hers was a short but very impactful life. She was a very bright Caymanian young woman whose star was extinguished far too soon. She was a great role model for any young Caymanian, particularly those going through the public school system. You see, Madam Speaker, she went through Savannah School as it was then, or the Joanna Clark Primary School as we know it now. She went through the various iterations of public high schools. She then went on to do a degree in civil and environmental engineering. She did a degree in master's engineering. She did a PhD in civil engineering, all at the University of South Florida. She had a concentration on sustainability in the built environment. Madam Speaker, that led her to come and approach me to tell me that she wanted, even though she was a tenured professor at a university in Georgia, she wanted to take a sabbatical that she was entitled to take to come to work in the government, because she wanted more than anything else in the world to make a significant contribution, to use her years of training and developed expertise to help her beloved Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, her parents, Ralph and Jasmine Manu Singh, are both retired teachers who served this country, who served the public education system in Cayman for over 20 years. She has a brother who also has a PhD. So they're obviously a family of considerable achievers. But it was just so significant that all of this, all of her basic education was in Cayman Islands public schools. And she achieved so much. Madam Speaker, I will greatly miss her. Those that work around me, my colleagues, my friends, they will greatly miss this incredible young lady. She was someone who didn't just achieve things here. She was recognized even in the US, Madam Speaker. She was a part of the National Science Foundation. that was based in Washington. She served as a representative of that. She served on a committee which had been set up by the current administration, focusing on resiliency, renewable energy, sustainable smart cities, and green infrastructure. All of which, Madam Speaker, she wanted to continue to do, and she wanted to bring that expertise and assist Harbour Love Cayman Islands, as I said. Madam Speaker, we will greatly miss her, and I extend deepest condolences to her family, to her parents, to her brother, and to her many friends here in the Cayman Islands and overseas. Madam Speaker, I thank you very much for indulging me in this.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to rise on behalf of the opposition to express our condolences and sympathies to everyone today who is grieving the loss of loved ones. And Madam Speaker, there are many. I cannot recall a time in the 10.5 years I've been a part of this Parliament where we have taken this much time and had so many people to recognize and pay homage to who have passed on in this community. And I know it's not just everyone in here is grieving. And within the community, you talk to people and they have and recognize and say the same things. There are so many people who have passed on in the past month, 2 months, that it's difficult to recall a time in our history where there was just so much sadness. But I especially wanted to just express condolences to all the members in here who have directly lost loved ones. And we've mentioned the member from Savannah, deputy leader, and also member for Georgetown South on the loss of their loved ones. Say on behalf of the opposition that we grieve with you all. And we continue to pray and to hold you all up and pray that you will find comfort in the memories that you have of the time you had with your loved ones. Because really that's all we have left now, it's the memories. And let's cherish those times. But I especially wanted at this time too, Madam Speaker, to mention Miss Debbie Bodden and her untimely passing, because it truly came as a shock to me. I learned about her passing, it was a few days after she had gone, before I think word really started to get out publicly of her passing. To say I was shocked would be an understatement. Madam Speaker, I knew Debbie very well. She was the first, I guess, the director there of the Secretariat, that when it was formed in 2010, 2011 time period. I was one of the first commissioners on the Commission for Standard in Public Life, a member of that commission, appointed by then Governor Duncan Taylor. I think it was probably late 2010, because I know we started our work, truly started the work of the commission in 2011, and Deborah was there. And I had the privilege to work with her for a good 2 years before I was forced to resign when I announced my candidacy for the 2013 elections. But I just always remember the dedication and the zeal and commitment which Deborah brought to her position and her job. She was blazing a trail. We were setting up something new. But this lady immersed herself into it. And the Honourable Premier mentioned her wit. I saw it. Mentioned her sharp tongue. Saw that too. And those things do stand out in terms of your memory. But there's one thing I can say about Deborah, is that when she came to a meeting, she was prepared. And she had your answers. And she led with a zeal and a commitment that I see you find so rare today. And if the governor would say to you, she was the epitome of what it takes to be a world-class civil service. And I have no shame in saying so. You know, she was that type of person. And I was so happy when I heard that she was being selected to go to Brussels, because like my good friend, the Minister of Financial Service mentioned, I mean, she was so well prepared and so made sure she was knowledgeable of what you were doing and what you were trying to accomplish. I know that she would have been a success over there. It's unfortunate that that didn't pan out, but you know, obviously Deborah was truly sick. She was far sicker than we all knew and appreciated. And you know, all I can say for her, and in terms of the work that she did, is that we will remember her, and we remember the example that she has left for us all, and for the wider civil service as well. And to everyone today who is grieving, deepest condolences to everyone. And let us always remember that we really have no idea when life is over. And we've all experienced that in the last 2 months in a very big way. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Member for Cayman Brac West and Little Cayman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to join voice with all of the previous speakers and to offer condolences to all the community members that have been named. I would like to especially acknowledge my good friend, MP Heather Bodden, on the loss of Miss Mary. And I'd also like to acknowledge Miss Barbara Conley and the loss of her brother. I would also like to just say a few words about Miss Valma, a good Cayman Bracker. Her children, obviously I'm very close to Joey, Richie. The other ones, lifelong friends. Miss Valma was known and respected and loved in Cayman Brac. And I can say that she was the same for all three islands. And in Cayman Brac, when she came with Mr. Lenny, you would hear people say, Miss Valma's on the island, you know, you gotta go look for her. And she welcomed everybody. She's a good wife. Mr. Lenny is a good husband. Beautiful family, successful family. She was a good mother. But Miss Valma had the ability to attract more than just her children. They had a club called Naya, and every person on that team would consider her their mother or some close relative that when they needed something, they could go see Mr. Lenny and Miss Valma. Very, very special lady. She'll be missed. I want to bring the condolences to Joey and his family. For especially all of the Cayman Brackers that were not able to get down to the funeral and have so much love for that family. Life well lived. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the time.
Honourable Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, first let me also extend my condolences, as I did previously, but to all the family of our colleagues, colleague from Savannah and your mom. We shared a lot of intimate moments reminiscing. And to my colleague, Georgetown South, Ms. Barbara, on the passing of her brother, Cyril, and to all of those who have been through the pain of a loss recently. No matter how prepared you think you are, you never are. And I will say that I will keep you all in my prayers, and I never knew what that meant either. until recently. But on behalf of the Hugh and Dilbert family, I just want to thank everyone for the outpouring of messages and comfort and condolences that we all received. Thank you.
Honorable members, I take this time to agree with the Honorable Leader of the Opposition that we have taken much time today to pay our respects to our citizens who have passed and also to our fellow colleagues. And yes, it has taken a significant amount of time out of our order of business. However, they are most deserving of this honor. And I think that it is now an appropriate time to take a break for our lunch hour, and we will resume at 1:45. Thank you.